Hello, I'm Stephen Becker, and I'm the priest at St. Mary Magdalene in Seven Lakes, North Carolina. I'm speaking to you from my home and I have a message for April 25th. It happens to be Good Shepherd Sunday, and you'll see that theme in our gospel reading today. And our gospel is from St. John chapter 10, so let's begin. Jesus said, I'm the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who's not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because the hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason, the Father loves me, because I laid down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I've received this command from my Father. The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. The topic today of my sermon is trusting the shepherd's voice. And the subtopic would be finding abundance and transformation by listening to the voice of our shepherd. So let's begin. Lord, may the words of my mouth and meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Today we celebrate Good Shepherd Sunday, as I mentioned before. As we think about what this means, I like what a fellow Episcopal priest expressed when he put down in words this comment about Good Shepherd Sunday. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, isn't a precious moment, painting, or a collectible. However sweet that may feel or seem, love enough to lay down one's life and take it back up again, isn't only sweet. It isn't only a moment. It's earthy, and it gets dirty. End of quote. His point rings true because the Good Shepherd knows us as we are and meets us where we live. His care for us always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And what makes us so unique is that his love is most often expressed to those who are least deserving. And I can say that's true for me personally too. We can see something of this if we will familiarize ourselves with the relationship between a shepherd and his sheep. In a small but enriching book, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23, author Philip Keller, who himself was a shepherd, tells of the difficulties involved with caring for the temperamental nature of sheep. For example, sheep do not easily lie down. In fact, it's almost impossible for them to be made to lie down unless 4 requirements are met. And he writes, owing to their timidity, they refuse to lie down unless they are free of fear, tension, aggravation, and hunger. He also went on to say that no other class of livestock requires more careful handling and more detailed attention than do sheep. And you get a glimpse of how Jesus carefully dealt with people, even his most severe critics. For example, when Jesus first announced, I am the Good Shepherd, it says in John's Gospel, in the passage that is right after the one I just read, here's what, when he said, I'm the Good Shepherd, it raised a controversy among them. And many of them said, he has a demon and is mad. Why listen to him? Others said, these are not the sayings of one who has a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? So let's consider their question. Why listen to him? After all, trust doesn't come easily to any of us. There are many other voices competing for our attention, many of which have a dim view of faith, if not not only a dim view, but they mock one's view of faith, if it's sincere and genuine. Listening to strife and contention on major networks and news media can easily lead a person to frustration and despair and doubt. It's a dynamic that reminds me of a story this dynamic of being pulled back and forth with all these competing voices reminds me of a story about a dog that wandered out onto a football field in the middle of halftime. The dog happened to be responsive to everyone who whistled for him. When the fans from both sides of the field began whistling to him, the dog would stop and listen to a whistle from one side of the field and run over there, and then all of a sudden he'd hear a whistle from the other side of the field. He'd stop, turn around, and head back over as fast as he could. And then it wasn't long before he heard somebody else on the opposite side, and he was running back and forth. And finally, he just sat down in the middle of the field in pure exhaustion. Eventually, someone had to come out and grab him and take him off the field so the second half of the game could begin. I wonder if that's not something of the picture that we see when we hear so many conflicting voices. Our New Testament story from the book of Acts abounds with such examples of those who attempt to turn people away from faith in Jesus, and they would tell people, don't listen to him. And all these other voices compete for our attention, our time, and our allegiance. But those other voices don't know us and don't care for us. Only one voice calls us each by name. Only one has loved us enough to lay down his life for us. In his light, it is his light that still shines in the midst of darkness, and it calls us out to us when we get tired and weary. And it says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. We need that word when we get tired. And hearing so many different voices does weary us greatly. The Good Shepherd is the one who said, I know my sheep and my own know me. He knows us because he came and dwelt among us, and he walked in our shoes. He identified with all of our weaknesses and struggles, and he was tempted in every way that we are, yet without sin. That's why he's compassionate towards us. That's why when we go astray, he comes and gets us. And that's why we can come to him so easily and readily if we're just willing to admit it. And when do we need it the most? When we blow it the most. So let's think about that. And I recently came across an article that illustrates how attractive this relationship can be. Now, I know it's crazy, the illustration I'm going to use, but bear with me. It came to my attention from a person writing about a new sensational hit game called Players Unknown Battlegrounds. Now, I personally don't play video games, but the article grabbed my attention when the writer described how it became so popular. The video game places 100 players in a virtual island to compete until one player remains. Whenever a player eliminates you from the contest, you can continue to watch through that player's vantage point. As one journalist noted, when you step into another player's shoes and inhabit their point of view, the emotional register shifts from self-preservation to communal solidarity. You begin to feel invested in the stranger who, not too long ago, did you in. Now, I know that's a crazy illustration, but here's what it says to me, that even though we might be skeptical, if we can put ourselves in the shepherd's shoes, we can identify with him, and we can learn to trust him. And vice versa, if we'll understand what he did for us, coming to us, living to us where we are, understanding us with all of our problems, he's meek and lowly in heart, and we can find rest for our souls if we'll trust him. So when I thought about this, I began to see that this is similar to the way Jesus treats us all. He came and identified for us. And the Bible tells us that when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It's because our good shepherd was willing to put himself in our place, standing between us and the snarling, bloodthirsty teeth of evil, that we can begin to know that we're loved, and we can begin to trust him, and we can calm down, settle down, and begin to listen to his voice, which is a difficult thing to do with so much noise in our culture. And then we'll have that different vantage point that gives us the ability to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge. So let me ask you, in the light of today's message, can you hear the Good Shepherd beckoning you? Are you willing to listen to his voice and follow where he leads? Is he inviting you to get close, to come to him and trust him, even if it requires following him through death's dark valleys? And by the way, that's when we need him the most. Will you follow? Will you go where he calls? Will you let him love you? Will you let him carry you when you're wounded and need healing? Will you let him care for you when you're weary and burdened? For surely his goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives, and we will walk, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Now, bear with me. I want you to think about a couple reflection questions as you try to apply this message to your life. Psalm 23 declares that the Lord is our shepherd, and that our shepherd wants to meet all of our needs and lovingly care for us and nurture us. When have you found yourself trusting or not trusting in his care? Can you describe a time of danger or darkness in your life when you felt the shepherding love of God reaching out to you? Since Jesus laid down his life for us, what might you need to lay down in your life to bring about the kind of relationship that he wants to have with you? A relationship of love and trust and even obedience. So anyway, please go on your way, think about these things, and I believe that the shepherd of your soul will bless you and keep you, and he'll watch over you. And you will be led to those green pastures where you'll lie down and find rest and peace, and with the hope that one day you'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. God bless you, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.